Howdy. Thanks for joining me on this talk. Calling this one Entertainment Enslavement. So I'm going to have fun in this one. And sorry if you hear any like beeping, they're working on the road. I was going to do this a couple days ago, but they were beeping, but I gave up, whatever. The video's going to have road beeps in it. This guy doing his chainsaw. But gave me extra time to kind of think about this video and research stuff. So entertainment enslavement. We all know what enslavement means, but to entertain, I looked up the etymology. So entertain is to keep up, maintain, to keep someone in a certain frame of mind. You know, like you're at a movie being entertained and you're watching Star Wars and you think you're in the spaceship with them in this galaxy far away, and you know the Ewoks are there and everything. So it's like to entertain you is to like totally lose grip from reality and box you into a different reality. To hold. And then we think of enter, you know, entertain. I want to break those apart. To enter, you enter into a place. You enter into a situation. You join a group, or you join society. You know, you enter into civilized society, as they call it. So you have to enter in and agree to it. Tain. I looked up what tain means. T-A-I-N. A thin tin plate for mirrors. So you imagine it's like a border around a mirror. A tain. It's almost like a frame, and then there's a mirror you're looking at. Really interesting. You put those together, you enter a tain. It's like you're entering into a mirror. Reflection of yourself. And then tain goes to taint, right? You just add a T to it. To taint something is to dye it like a color, to impart color. Taint something is to corrupt it, contaminate it, imbue with something deleterious, which deleterious is just poison, noxious, you know, to taint something, you're imbuing it with poison, mentally or morally. So you can be entertainted, right? You can enter into watching something and it could be perverted, or it can mislead you, like watching the news. It can taint or poison your mind. So those are like the etymology of the word entertainment. There's always been forms of entertainment in this realm. You can go back to Shakespeare, which there's a whole conspiracy about how Shakespeare wasn't even the guy they say he was, because he like grew up in a town where nobody could read or write. So it's kind of weird that this guy who wrote all these plays and did all this philosophical stuff grew up in a town where nobody could read and write. You gotta love that conspiracy. Shakespeare doesn't exist. It was all wrote by secret societies to influence people. But that's kind of straight to the point of why they had plays back in the day. They had all these plays and these dramas, and they were teaching people how to act, showing them how to be. The World's Fairs come to mind. You know, if you've done any research on the World's Fairs, they were like these big expositions of the past. And they had natives on display and savage people, and they had a whole Roman Colosseum and people dressed up in Roman garb to entertain the people and bring them into this false reality. Is the way I see it. And nowadays, in our modern society, we have TV shows and programming. You know, shows like Friends. I remember growing up watching the TV show Friends, and it was like about a group of friends. And how people emulated them and would say the things that they would say to each other. You know, and then you also have Seinfeld. I think that was a big TV show that imparted a lot of things into people. And then what made, I don't know how old this show is, This Is Us. It's some NBC show. They literally called This Is Us, and it's like a fake Modern Family with all of its crazy problems. I just remember my mom used to watch it and say, "This is us. Look, this character's you, that character's them." And it's like, they literally made a TV show about Modern Family, and then how they could take each character and try to distort them and make you think you're like these characters on the TV screen. Got a couple notes I took. And then, I guess my big point about this talk, the entertainment enslavement, I just want to talk about the political system and how it seems like, you know, people are entertained by having this dynamic of red versus blue all the time, and how this guy said this on the blue team, oh, that guy did that on the red team, and then this person talked about his take on the blue side, or the red guy talked about his take on the red side, and how it's all just imagination and a story that people have been imparted with since they were children about these political systems that represent people, when really they're just TV show programming. It seems like they always have been programming and false realities for people, and how you have to be entertained. Like, if it was not entertaining, people wouldn't sit there at their screens and watch it. Like, I think there was a debate last night or something, and I'm sure a bunch of people sat down and listened to it, but in my mind, it's all scripted beforehand. It's all meant to be outrageous and cause another story to be had today about who won the debate. Huh? It was not even a debate. You're just watching a movie produced to grab your awareness and shove it in a box. Because they don't want you to be aware of the power you have to create your story, and to just not even participate in their false reality. Because it's so false. It's all manipulated. And then I of course I stumble onto this video. I gotta put this guy's channel up. But he talked about how entertainment is not entertainment. Like, there's no such thing as entertainment. And I'm like, well, I'm about to make a video entertainment. I have to listen to this. But his point of view is, it's like, we go in to watch these movies. We watch a TV show. And it's actually, it has to speak to something in our lives to actually be real, and for us to be entertained by it, per se, but how it's not actually entertainment we're seeking when we go watch a movie. We're looking for guidance on how to deal with our inner problems, or something we're thinking about, you know, like, I'm sure you watched a movie and you've identified with the character in the movie. And the more that you identify with the character and the struggle that person's going through in the movie, the more sucked into the movie you become, and the more real it is to you. So it's not even entertainment. It's like I was meant to see this so I can progress on my story, on my journey, and have this other perspective of how this guy's journey went. When I look back at all the video games I played and the stories in the games and the choices I got to make, I identified with all of them. I wanted to be the hero. I wanted to save the princess. You know, it's a very personal thing, entertainment, when you really think about it. It's not just a casual watching of something. It's like you're consuming the movie. You're consuming what these people have to say. And then it's becoming a part of you. And it's probably harder to get out than to let it in. A lot of forms of entertainment now are just sports, you know, and I look at politics and sports as the exact same thing. It's a way to divide people. And if you are, you know, if you're going through a time where you want to be divided, you identify with these groups because you're not whole inside. So you pick a side, and then you root for that side. Because you're still on a low level of consciousness, you don't see the unity in everything and how everything is connected. So, you know, once you, I guess, you know, I'm kind of all over the place today. But for me, I'm all about unity. So I don't enjoy movies where there's like two sides. I'm always looking for this nuanced perspective of unifying the two sides that are really just living in two different stories, you know. So I feel like sports, politics, news, it only entertains a certain type of person, you know, that's into these divisions. So I think it's a good sign if you don't watch the news, you don't watch sports, you're getting more into these talks that I'm having and these more nuanced ideas, you know, of expanding, getting more creative, not just taking what somebody else has told you and running with it and choosing a side. So I mentioned voting, and I'm going to put a link to a video about voting. I don't know if you've seen this YouTube channel, Truth Stream Media. They've been around for a while. They're really good, really intelligent talks they have. But they talk about voting. They just break voting down in the word and how it's like a wish for something to happen. It's like you're doing a spell, joining into something. You know, you don't really have any control over it, right? You're just dreaming and hoping and wishing something would happen a certain way. That's how you're casting your votes. And then something that sparked me, I've been stumbling onto stuff lately. This YouTube channel, Understanding Conspiracy. And the guy wrote a book. He's like 32 or something. He's like younger than me. And he wrote this book about how the Nephilim look like clowns. So I don't know if you've ever heard of the Nephilim. They're from the Bible. You know, supposedly, you know, the fallen angels came down, had sex with the women, made the Nephilim, and the Nephilim are giants. You know, that's the short story. But this guy, Understanding Conspiracy, wrote this book about how they look like clowns. And how they have to amuse you. You know, you have to be entertained by them. And then you imitate them. And how you look at all these ancient cultures. And there's all these cultures that have all these clown masks. And they say that their leaders were clowns and they were giants. And they put on the clown mask to try and be like their master, you know. Or to actually summon them in a lot of these African or tribal cultures all around the world. They talk about dressing up like the clown, like their leaders, you know, and doing dances and doing all this stuff to entertain, and how he relates all of this into the Nephilim theory on how these Nephilim are kind of ruling humanity. But it makes a lot of sense if you watch the evolution of entertainment and how we used to have a circus. You know, people used to go to the circus, watch the acts, and you had the guy in the top hat, you know, keeping everybody entertained and guiding everybody. And now how a lot of people are just entertained by the news and entertained by the political situations. And how a circus and the political structure are the same thing. It's just a giant entertainment show with all these stories and false sides. To just keep you looking this way, look at that one, look at the elephant, look at the donkey, right? The Demorats and the Redumlicans. So I'll put his channel below too. It's very interesting how he talks about clowns and how there's a lot of murderers that dress up like clowns, and how they have all these weird movies about it, and there's always something to these things that end up happening. You know, there's always a crazy history. And then this other YouTube channel I've been watching lately is Jay Dreamers, and he's got a Truth in Movies playlist, so he kind of breaks down movies and how you can find all these symbols throughout all these movies that point to a certain truth here. I'm sure you've heard the saying, like, they lie to you in the news, but they tell you the truth through the movies. So I'll put, you know, a couple of those below. The one on Willy Wonka was really good, I thought. Of course, he breaks down the Truman Show. Shows you a lot of the truth in the Truman Show. But coming back to this idea of the entertainment enslavement, how what entertains you can enslave you, and how it's kind of obvious to see the more people, you know, go blue and Demorat, and they put their Demorat signs in their yards. It's just like they're entertained by the division of being on this side. And then the red people, you know, they're so entertained because their leader, Trump, who I call Chump, you know, he's just making everybody a chump. He's tricking them all. He's the Trump card that the Freemasons are using, you know, to trump all these people in their mind right now. He's pretty obvious he's in on it. And it was a fake, everything about it is so fake and sensational, and it's just a giant division, you know, with that guy. But it's entertaining, and people identify with it. They want the border closed, right? They want this and that. They want this to be that way, and da-da-da-da. It's just entertaining. It speaks to them. You know, these ideas of authorities, somebody else fixing everything. You know, but what entertains you can enslave you. So I guess, you know, I always like to leave these on a positive note, if I can. But you should be entertaining yourself and your life and your experiences and your future. That should be the most entertaining thing. Is like what you're doing every day. Not what's going on YouTube. Not what's going on with the political stuff. But I guess for me, the deeper I go inside of myself and try to look at past traumas or look at why I behave certain ways, it becomes so mind-blowing, mind-bending. And then I test out ways to get deeper in and try to change this way, change that way. I don't know. It's far more entertaining to me to like live than to watch other people live and watch other stories. Like, it's just far more entertaining to make my own story and see where it goes. push all the limits, push all the buttons to the max. Be as brave as possible, be as bold as possible. See where it goes. I just encourage you, entertain yourself. Not saying that these movies or this stuff, is bad. There's so many things you can learn from all this stuff. So, just keep it at a balance. Don't let these things that are entertaining you consume you and take you away from your own story, your own wild adventure here. I'm sure I've probably said enough. So I'll put a bunch of links below. I really like that J Dreamer Z, and a lot of what he says I resonate with. And it's one of those things where I don't know, half the things he says I've never heard of. How do I know if they're real or not? But there's something deeper about it, about the message he's putting forth. And it's just very creative. It's very imagination oriented. I love it. Because you could listen to somebody try to be all scientific and physical, and it gets pretty boring pretty quickly. It's so much funner to stretch the imagination as far as you can, and see where that goes. So I'd encourage you to check out some of his talks and things, especially if you're into movies. He broke down Cool World the other day, and I'll put these links below. I really like the one on Fallout. It's a video game, and they made a TV series about it. But how there's so much symbolism in all these movies and in Hollywood, and how they're telling you the truth all the time about what this place is and what is going on here. It's just you're ignoring it, and you're believing the false reality that they're putting out front. It's like everything else. All the deep truths and the most beautiful, precious jewels and gemstones, it's all hidden deep within. So it's funny that people watch the news and believe it, but then when you get down to it, the truth is in the movies and in all these other fantasy things that we talk about and get into. So I hope you enjoyed this one. Love y'all.